Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous one, and welcome to Q&A Thursday with me. And today I'm not actually doing a Q&A. I'm doing a little bit of an add-on to a Q&A podcast I did a couple of months ago now with the gorgeous Becky from Texas, who asked about melatonin and the long-term use of melatonin. Now, since I have recorded that podcast, some new information has come out about melatonin. So I just wanted to cover off on that. And if you wanted to go back and revisit that previous podcast, because I'm not going to go over that information about melatonin, if you just go into the search function of your podcast app for my podcast and put in melatonin, it should come up. Any issues finding it, just let me know. Send me a DM at Susie Garden Wellness on Instagram or Facebook, and I will send you the link. I guess before I get into this, I did want to just make, a little disclaimer, because in Australia, melatonin is a prescription item, and in many other parts of the world it is considered just a nutritional supplement. So for many of my listeners, they can just buy it in pharmacies over the counter, no script necessary. But in Australia, a script is required. So I just wanted to make that clear. And you can obviously, if you have concerns about your melatonin use, you can have a chat to your GP or prescribing doctor about whether or not melatonin is an appropriate prescription for you. Now, I do just have to point out, I am recording this and I've got a very short window of time today, and someone's mowing their lawn, so I don't know whether you can hear that or not. So I'm really sorry if that's the case, but hopefully my microphone is good enough to just pick up my voice and not that outside noise. All right, so let's get into it. So melatonin is a very kind of popular supplement / medication to use to support sleep. So melatonin is naturally produced in the body from serotonin. Serotonin is part of, or the precursor to melatonin, and we make about 90 to 95% of our serotonin in our gut. And there's a lot of research going on at the moment for a whole bunch of different applications of melatonin, not just for sleep. It is excellent for sleep support. But there is something in a new study. Now, you must bear in mind that this is a mouse study. It is not a human study. However, I think it's always important to acknowledge these studies that come out, even if they're not in humans, that there may be some merit, particularly when the study is showing some negative health impacts. It's always better to err on the side of caution. So let's get into it. So what the findings were of this new study were that it can aggravate intestinal inflammation and disrupt gut bacteria or the gut microbiome. So I'm just actually going to say that again, because I said it can regulate. I will rephrase that to it may actually aggravate intestinal inflammation and disrupt gut microbiota or the microbiome. And that is really important, particularly for people with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, because this is what they were specifically studying in this mouse study. So they had these mice who had ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. These are two, these come under the umbrella of inflammatory bowel disease. And so that's not IBS, it's IBD. And what they found is that, there was intensified intestinal inflammation and impaired the action of the gut microbiome. Now, what they did say with this study, that the effect actually depended on the animal's gut microbiome makeup. So it wasn't just a blanket, this is causing a problem. It did depend on the animal's gut microbiome. We know that the more diversity you have in your gut microbiome, the healthier it is. And this study showed that, that actually did make a difference in these mice. And so I've actually got the study open in front of me. And I guess I just wanted to refer to it because of the question that I answered a couple of months ago was about, can melatonin be used safely long term? And I did talk to that in that podcast. So what this is saying is, if you have inflammatory bowel disease, so Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, there is now a question mark over that and whether that is safe for melatonin to be taken by people with these conditions. And again, this in Australia, you would need to have a chat to your medical practitioner that has prescribed your melatonin. That's not something that I would invite people to message me about, because that is beyond my scope of practice in Australia. And for those of you in other countries where you can just buy melatonin in pharmacy, etc., it would be to talk to your pharmacist and see whether, what advice they would give you about it. I just felt that it was important, since I had put out a podcast talking about safety, that I provide this update. So I hope this is helpful. As I'm actually speaking into the mic, I'm just re-looking at the study, just skimming it in the background. I have had a look at it, but I think that they were the key points I wanted to pull out this time. And essentially, the take-home message is, as I say in a lot of these research studies, is that more research needs to be done, because this study actually contradicted some previous studies. So, which does happen sometimes. So, we could hear about another study in the next month, next year, that actually says the opposite. But I do feel like we do need to err on the side of caution always, particularly when it comes to gut health. So if you've got any questions, as I said, you could ask me some general questions maybe. Please feel free to message me that, and I will let you know whether or not I feel comfortable answering that. But yeah, I hope this has been helpful for you. And yeah, please keep your questions coming in. I look forward to bringing my next podcast next Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you liked today's episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts, or the follow button if you're on Spotify, so that you can get each new episode delivered to you every single week. If you like free stuff, and who doesn't, then head over to susiegarden.com and grab my 8 essential age-defying secrets every woman over 40 should know right now. Or if you'd like to continue the discussion, head over to Instagram and DM me at Susie Garden Wellness. I'd love to connect with you.